he's a big lad as well. Well, one in. See if he gets away with it. Let's watch that pellet. Here we go. Just like that. See, such a lovely method that I can target the whole of my peg. Right, so the sun is finally out, those big wobbly carp are swimming on the top, which means one thing, it is time to get on the pellet waggler. Pretty much the bestest method, most exciting method in the world. And for today's video, I'm gonna go all in depth how to get the very, very most from the ultimate float, a foam pellet waggler. Just why they outfish pretty much any other float on the market when it comes to waggler fishing. These bad boys can be unbeatable on the day. So further ado, let's get some fishing, let's catch some of them big wobbly carp. Right, so I want to get straight into some fishing. I'm going to talk about all the kits, go through the wagglers in depth in the middle of the video. But to start with, I want to go straight into it. We want to catch some fish. It is boiling, there's carp everywhere. I'm not missing out on these. But I want to break it into two ways. I think the biggest edge when it comes to foam pellet wagglers is they're more versatile than any other wagglers. And I can use them in the big heavy weights for fishing in windy, open water conditions. I can use the medium, sort of 4 or 5 grammers for chucking to islands or fishing them on my feed, or I can go really light to the 3 grammers that I can use as mugging wagglers. So there's no better mugging waggler than a nice little foam waggler. It just goes in so much nicer, doesn't dive deep, stays where I want it to be. I said that well, doesn't dive deep. But yeah, I want to get straight on with it. But what I do want to do as well, today it's going to be about mugging and it's going to be about having a feeding spot. So I want to prep that feeding spot. I don't want to go straight on it, start feeding. There's another option to catch fish, so I'm going to mug them to start with. But what I do want to do is get my feed spot rocking. So just half a dozen pellets. I'm going to ping them out there just short of the island. I don't want to go onto the island because if I do that, they'll start sucking in the grass. They'll be a nightmare to catch. So I want to keep them 2 meters off the island, I'm going to say, with the view of fishing at the back of my feed as close to the island as possible. So I'm going to, every now and again, I'm going to ping them, just half a dozen. Don't need loads and loads of bait, just a bit of noise going in. Yeah, whether you feed 2 or 10. Keep it low amounts of bait, but lots of plopping, lots of noise going in. Absolutely massive. But anyway, before we do that, I want to mug some because there's millions about. So before I put any bait on, in fact, goggles on. Literally, you cannot fish with wagglers efficiently without some glasses on, without some polarized glasses. The difference they make in terms of the fish you can see, just making everything else so much better. They definitely catch more fish and just improve your fishing in general. So yeah, crack on with that. Mugging to start with. So I've got a nice light hook on, so I'm not going to talk about kit just yet. I'm going to talk about that once we've nailed one. But what I want is a nice light hook bait. In this case, I've got a 6mm pasty pellet, my favourite pellets in the world. Yeah, a decent medium gauge size 16 hook. Because I'm fishing a 6mm pellet, it sort of matches nice. And everything's really robust. I've got an 0.18 hook length on. So nice and robust, but not too extreme that the fish are going to avoid things. So we're on with that. 3 gram waggler. Say ready loaded, it's all there, interchangeable if I want to. Talk about that again, as I say, later on. But a 3 gram waggler is the one. It's the one that I know with these, with 6 pound line, really important, a low diameter line when mugging. Yeah, you don't have the accuracy when you're throwing really heavy, thick lines. 8 pound and above, lovely for being robust, but you just don't maintain that accuracy of casting your waggler to exactly where you need it to be to a fish if you've got anything heavier than 6 pound line on. That's what I've got. 6 pound horizon mono. I mean, the posher one that we do, they're slightly less durable than the big spools of the yellow line that we do. And it just means I can cast the fish so much easier. Yeah, so to begin with, I'm going to make it really easy for myself. Yeah, obviously if I could catch them on the pole, I would. It's so much more accurate. But this allows me to target those 20-meter ones. There's a little shoal of them just moving through there now. And I want to chuck it and just stop it just short. Yeah, it might take you a couple of casts just to get your eye in so you know exactly where you're going. And I've got a decent sized hook length. I've got nearly a 4-foot hook length on this because I don't want my waggler to land too much near the fish. So you can see with a nice 3.5-foot hook length, my bait's landing well away. Yeah, we can see them fish there. Let's chuck it to them. So quite high up in the air, put him in. Watch that float, just looking for any little dip on it, because that's the thing with having such a little pellet. There's not a lot of weight down the line, so I'm not going to give that long. I should have had a bite by now. Back out. Really fast, busy method, but as I say, what it does, it just allows me to put a little bit of bait in to get some fish feeding over me pellets without upsetting the early visitors to me peg. There's a couple of fish really close here. I can try and just underarm it to them. See if that gets away with it. Just watch that pellet. Here we go, just like that. See, such a lovely method that I can target the whole of my peg. Yeah, anywhere a fish pops up. Look at this great big one here. I could have had him as well. I should have had him. He was much bigger. But anywhere a fish pops up, because I've got a waggler on that doesn't spook the fish as well, it means I can put it right on top of any fish I see and get them out my peg so much quicker than I can with a pole potentially. Like, what's that? 6 pound in less than 30 seconds from casting pretty much. So if that's an opportunity, if that's an option, I'm going to say, if mugging's an option, if you're seeing, oh, he's come out the net, even better. Proper John Wilson style, innit? Let me have a look at him. He is, yeah, I'm going to give himself £6 for him. First fish, beautiful. But yeah, if mugging's an option, and you can see them swimming about, I've said this many, many, many times, it normally means that they're not necessarily feeding really well, as in they're not going to come to your bait. But by giving myself the best of both, I think I might have upset these geese. I think I'm fishing in the goose's runway where they go onto the island, but they shouldn't be a problem. So now I've caught the first one. Sometimes that can upset the fish a little. But back in, 6mm pellet on. Lovely, see, really little, lovely bait that I don't know if Adam can see. If I drop it there, Ad, just see if you can see how nicely that bait goes down. So you can see it for a good 10 inches, 14 inches maybe. Goes in ever so nice. Yeah, so it gives them fish, pardon me, the opportunity of taking that bait because it's not sinking too quickly. Sometimes with an 8mm it can go down a little bit too fast. So back in again. Make sure my clutch is nice and loose as well. Huge thing when waggler fishing is to have a slack clutch when you strike, because I don't want those fish to disappear. Here to break me up length. It's a ghosty, I can't not have a go at him. Is he going to have a go at it? Oh, he's turned away, he didn't like it him. So within the pole range is sort of easy spookable. Right, I'm going to go right down out my peg this time. I'm going to put it there. There's a few about. So already noticeable is they're not coming to the splash. Yeah, the splash of the float isn't attracting any fish, which is a key thing for when I actually fish the waggler later on properly within my feed. It means that these fish are a little bit wary today. That one's gone in nice, that one's going to have it. So you get a response ever so quickly. You're looking at getting a bite within the top 18 inches. Even though I'm fishing 3 or 4 foot deep, I want to get a bite quickly. Yeah, they're not going to take it hanging on this. They might within my feed, but because I'm casting at individual fish, it's all about being busy and chucking it to wherever I'm visually seeing them. This ripple might hamper things a little bit, but we'll see. Where are they going? There's a little ball over there, right in line with them ducks. And so even if it's a 3 grammer, I'm able to chuck this 30, 35 metres still, because I've got that light line on. Because I've got me, I'm not sure what diameter is, I think it might be 018. I'm sure £6 018 if I remember. But nice, light, still durable enough to catch plenty of fish on. I would say the accuracy it gives me being able to cast, that'll go. You're going to have it. Oh, I fancied that one then, that just went in right. It looked really good for one that was just swimming there then, but obviously not. Just want to crank that in, get some bait out there on the feeding line. I've not seen any signs out there yet where we're feeding bait, but it's not a method that they're going to rock up on in numbers instantly. It's just like shallow fishing in that harder you work, the more you feed, the more you cast, the more you're going to catch. Because if you imagine you were fishing this way on the pole, you'd be endlessly slapping. I mean, you can do, flipping that, you could do 30 slaps in what? If you're doing one every 10 seconds. I mean, you're gonna cast up, what am I on about? I was watching a fish then. You're gonna slap a lot more. All you're getting out of a waggler is the one slap per cast. So you're not getting as much fishing time as you would if you're on a pole, but obviously we're able to target these fish that are a wee bit further out. Right, duck's me marker. That didn't go in right then, didn't like that. It's like, it seems to have coloured up a little bit over there. Right, nice short range one. That was horrendous, Jamie. And he's a big lad as well. Oh, I want him. He's spat at it, he's spat at it. So they're paired up, does that mean they're about to... His mate's bigger than him. Here we go. So you feel, in between your fish, you feel like it's an eternity and takes so long to hook the next one. But in reality, if I'm hooking one every 5 or 10 minutes, you can have an absolutely ridiculous weight in the net. You're talking like 40, 50 pound an hour just by getting a bite every 10 minutes. It's another prop one, a bit bigger on this. There's a popular carp. There's so many fish starting to cruise now. So it does feel like there's a little bit of colour starting to come up on my far bank line as well. That I know that's probably about 4 foot deep over there. So I've got 2 different options depending what they do, but we'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to land this one. And then I think it is time to have a quick chat, proper in depth about kit. Just go through wagglers, how I want to attach them, because there's a few little things that I believe make a huge difference in durability of the rig and just it working properly. Come on, I'm going to have you now next time. It's crazy, isn't it? With £6 line and no 18, how hard you can pull. And your gear will withstand that all day, 20, 30, 40 carp. As long as you're gentle at the netting stage and look after your rig. It's just terrifying what you can catch. But so you need to be using that kit as well. It'd be nice to fish heavier, but I just won't maintain accuracy of casting if I do that. They're pulling, they're right in a pulley mood. I'm having you this time, come on. Beautiful comment. Beautiful. We got him. He's a bit bigger than I thought him. I thought he was like £6. He's not. Quite a bit larger. So just get rod in, snap him over. Yeah, he's probably, I'm going to give myself £8.5 for that one. But again, a flipping lovely one that's not been caught for a long time. So, say mugging, really, really simple, really about being busy, little light hook bait, lovely light wagglers. Yes, it does take quite a bit of practice for your casting. I mean, I'm definitely feel a bit rusty at it. I've not done it a lot myself in the last couple of months. But such an exciting way of catching fish before they rock up on your feeding line, if it's an option. So, let's reel that one in, let's tidy everything up, and let's go through kit in a little bit more depth. Right, so the riggy kitty bit sort of thing, I want to run through everything because everything definitely has a place when it comes to waggler fishing. It really does make a difference that everything's perfect. I mean, it's fussy, but yes, it does make a difference, and that's all I'm bothered about. What are we going to do? Yeah, let's start big and work our way small. So, rods. I love a 12-footer. Big fan of 12-footers. I just find them more versatile. So I want a nice pellet waggler rod, not a light one, a proper pellet waggler rod because I'm pulling. Yeah, and something a little bit stiffer, like our normal Horizon wagglers, I can use them for me mugging as well because I can cast accurately if it's a little bit stiffer. But yeah, for me, 12 foot, pretty much bang on, means you can be accurate. 3000 reel, dead standard, don't want to go into that, whatever reel will do. But line, I've just had a nose enemy bag, 018 and £6. Yeah, I'd love, or I have done in the past, I've used 016 and £4. It's beautiful to use, but it just doesn't have the durability of catching the fish that, you know what I mean, we're pulling that hard, you can't. So I've settled now on £6 of the Horizon Mono it just means I can cast it beautifully wherever I am. So that's all the main bit, yeah. Actually setting it up itself, shall I do that next? No, I want to come back on that. I want to talk about Wagglers next. So Wagglers, new ones that we brought out. I've had a lot to do with these with Sean. I've been very lucky to use some beautiful handmade ones in the past, and that's what we want to try and replicate as close as we can possibly get to those sort of floats while producing the best Waggler we can on the market. So foam Wagglers are number one, so they don't dive. They go in so much nicer. Yeah, they land so much, what's the word? Softer, I'm going to say, as long as they're cast in the right way. They don't dive as much, they don't spook fish, they just fish better than a conventional balsa waggler. Don't get me wrong, there's a place for balsa wagglers when you're casting a long way, you're trying to keep your line tight, load of wind, whatever else. But these are far, far more versatile when it comes to fishing a bigger array of conditions. So we've done them, 6, 5, 4 and 3 gram. Yeah, I'm going to say the main three are these. We're going to talk about the mugging one last. But me 4, me 5 and me 6, they're for always me feeding Wagglers. I mean, I may use the 4 for mugging at distance, but as a rule, these are all me feeding Wagglers. And I want the 4 gram to be one that lands within me feed. Yeah, really, really important when it comes to feeding your 8 mils in normal conditions. Yeah, when the wind's like it is today, quite nice. With the 018 line, with a 4 gram Waggler, that lands at the far end of my bait, my 8 mils, when I'm feeding them with my catapults, that's where my float naturally lands. I mean, if I can give it the big one, the cast is dying there. I'll talk a bit more when we're playing. When I'm actually fishing, I'll explain a little bit more. But a dying cast, like you're casting as far as you can and the float's reaching its maximum, it lands perfectly then. And I wanted the 4 gram, because that's my main fishing Waggler, to be that float. So it's nice and heavy enough to get there while still not creating a great big splash when it goes in. So 4 gram, really, really important. The 5 and the 6, obviously, as simple as it says on the tin, they're just for fishing a bit further or in windy conditions. Yeah, you're probably not going to be able to even feed where a 5 and 6 naturally land themselves. It's going to be 40 meters, 45 meters, a hell of a long way with nice light line. But they're there for the windier conditions when I've got a wind in my face, a crosswind, whatever else. Maybe my float's pulling along, I'll step up to a bit of bigger Waggler. They give me more versatility, more options, while still using the foam that makes them absolutely perfect. So you see with all the floats, we've got flights on the top. That was something that we actually learned at the last minute. Myself and Adam were out at, I think we were at Hampton Springs having a little play, and it was doing our thing. We couldn't get the Wagglers to fly beautifully. So we ended up butchering some old Wagglers, sticking some flights on the top, and the difference it made was ridiculous in making sure they fly as tight as they can, as straight as they possibly can. The difference putting flights on top of them made was, it was frightening. It literally made the float twice as good as they were with the original samples that we had. So that was pretty much how the floats were made. You can see they are just standard foam Wagglers. I mean, as you see, foam Wagglers come with, what's that? Is that cane? I'm sure it's a cane stem, or is it a balsa stem? I think I'm going to say cane, but it might be balsa. It could be either. It's made of wood. That's as good as it gets for me. That goes all the way through the float to create loads of strength. Just makes a lovely float that's pretty much unbreakable. So the weight's really, really, really simple. Yeah, just simply attached with silicone. They're going to actually sell these separate as well. So if you have a homemade Waggler that you love already, then it's quite possible you'll be able to find one of our weights in 3, 4, 5 or 6 gram that might work for your float as well. And as I say, the weights, without being lead or something like that, a denser material, they're as good as we could possibly get, keeping them as small, as aerodynamic as they could possibly be, while being really easy to attach. Just with a simple silicone onto the float, it doesn't get any more simple than that, while still staying there, last all day, they will not come off. Brilliant, brilliant, simple attachment. But above all else, that allows me to interchange my float. That could be the one key thing that was sometimes difficult with foam Wagglers. We've had a million ways of attaching them in the past. They've been a right pain in the bum to get perfect. But finding an attachment that you can interchange your Wagglers, because conditions change, and I don't want to set 6 rods up with different sizes of Wagglers and different depths. It gets relentless then, the amount of kit you might need. So because we can change the Wagglers with a simple snap link that I'll show you now, just makes them really, really versatile. We can play about and use whatever Waggler we want and change it throughout the day. So lastly, quickly touch on him, the 3 grammer. So that was me mugging Waggler. So you probably can't quite get that to your feed. I'm going to say that dies just short of your feed with a normal. So when I talk about feeding, I'm always using our heavy duty grey catapult. I mean, we're 8 mils feed for them. It's about 30, 35 meters for me. These die just short of that. The cast just finishes short. I mean, brilliant for mugging. Obviously you can feed your pellets shorter if you want, but for me, that's me mugging one. We could have gone a bit smaller, but we found it was a bit unstable, a bit tricky to cast in anything less than 3 grams. So that was what we settled with. But same again, lovely weight, lovely flight with a lead that we can interchange on the Wagler as well. So you could easily be fishing your normal Wagler within your bait, see some muggers about, swap your float, and you're away instantly. It really, really is that quick. Right, enough waffling about floats. Lastly, how we set things up. And today I've set 2 Wagglers up, just for 2 rods up, just for different depths. I've got one with a 2-foot hook length and one with a 4-foot hook length. Because I know I've got, I'm going to say I've got 4 foot tight to that island, 3.5, 4 foot tight to that island. So I'm even fishing on deck. Plus I want the long hook length for mugging as well. But if I show you what's going to be easier to show on camera, I'm going to show you the 2-foot hook length because that fits in the shot a lot easier. I'm not going to talk about hooks and lines and all that. That's whatever you think it needs to be on the day. I mean, suit your hook to your bait. Bigger hook if you're on an 8mm, smaller hook if you're using a 6mm. Your line needs to be whatever density it needs to be to pull when it comes to hook lengths, whether you get away with 0.20 and a snaggier peg. Often I'll fish down to sort of like 0.15. I'll go really, really light if it's them moody fish and I'm only after 1 or 2. But say, suit that to your session. But how I set it up here couldn't be more simpler. Is that the right way of saying it? Yeah, couldn't be more simple. I'm my best off showing you like this. Let me take a bit of line off. Let me steal that hook length all together. Get off there. Right, I'm going to get rid of the rod. Really, really, really simple. Yeah, it's literally, I've got 2 line stops with a snap link swivel in between them, and it is on top, massive, massive, massive thing this, on top of my hook length loops. Yeah, or my main line loop finishes there, so it literally, the line stop buffers up against the knot. It means I can cast as hard as I flipping want, and they will never, ever, ever move my stops down, which is the way it gets compressed when you're casting. My stops are going to stay in that place all the time, which what it does mean is that my hook length dictates the depth. Yeah, so really, really important, as I say, in that case, we've got a 2-foot hook length. Yeah, it keeps things nice. That's me for feeding. I'm not a big fan of a 2-foot hook length for mugging because I think your float line's a bit too close to your bait. It can be great, but as a rule, I want it a bit longer for mugging. But what I do have is within my spools, on our little tiny spools that we have with all my hook lengths for Waggler fishing, if I take that pin off, you'll see that all my hook lengths that I make, great big uns. Yeah, I'll make them 5, sometimes even 6 foot, depending what venue I'm going to fish. And that means I can fish at that depth, or I can chop them down to the exact depth that I want them to be. It just means that I'm fishing pretty much as perfectly as I can. I'm not moving line stops up the line, because although they're fine on many, many occasions, I do worry that moving a line stop multiple occasions, eventually it can start weakening your line, and it can make it move because it's not sat on a knot. Last thing I want. I don't want that to happen. So my hook length always dictates the exact depth that I'm fishing. So those little things all combined do really make for me the ultimate Waggler setup when using these little foam Wagglers. So, talk for far too long, I do want to catch some now. I'm going to feed a bit more bait. Let's see if we can catch a couple within the pellets that we're feeding. Right, good bit now, feed a bit, and I've been prepping that line for a little while. There's been an odd sign there, but it could just be fish moving through. So say, now at this point, if I'm completely honest, I'd still be mugging. If mugging's an option, that's what you do. There's no faster way of catching them. But of course, we want to go through a bit of feeding. So I'm still pinging them pellets, not too many. I'm probably feeding 3 or 4, maybe 5 at a time, just for that bit of noise, because I'm being really careful not to put too many out there, because I don't want to put the fish on the bottom, and I don't want to put any bait in them reeds. So they really can be a nightmare. Fishing too close to islands, of losing the fish because they start sucking for the pellets. There can be 100 pellets on the bottom, and there can be 2 pellets stuck in them weeds, and that's what they want, because they know it's safe, and they're used to catching them. So I'm keeping everything short. So everything's fed nice. This wind's gonna pop up right now and make me look like a wally, but let's see what happens. So I've swapped my float over, 4 gram now. Say 4 gram is me fishing and feeding float. It's the one that lands where my bait's gonna go. I mean, my cast is dying at that point. And what I've got exactly the same hook bait as I was mugging with. I've got so much confidence, even though I'm feeding 8mm, which I need for the plop and the distance, I still want a 6mm on the hook, just because it sinks a little bit slower. The pasty ones that I use are so much more visible. It's just a confidence thing, if anything else. So we're gonna start with that. So all good to go. We're on the deep one, we're on the 4-foot one, just to start with, because I think the fish are backing off the sound of my float today. So I'm gonna feed me bait. I'm not liking this wind. I'm gonna cast just to the side of my peg. go, and let's see what happens there. I just want to see if that's dragging through. By holding my rod up like that, a bow's created really quick because I got a sudden horrible gust of wind then. So I'm just going to let it fish, stretch out there as much as I can, and then when I think my first bit of my cast is finished, I'm just going to flick my line over. Yeah, I haven't straightened it too much there because it created that much of a bow, but that gives me time to feed. Yeah, as soon as my bait lands, I'm cranking that back in. It's got to be that quick. Your routine, you've got to work ever so hard. So I didn't like it too much then because the wind really has got up. I'm close to swapping my float already, but I'll give it a cast just before. Just make sure that bait's clean. Bit of muck on it, lots of muck on the water today. See, I'm really not liking that. We're going to swap it. Let's try and have one more cast and I'll try and make it land a little bit nicer. Now see, the wind's just not right for that little float. And so that's where the versatility, that's the one, isn't it? The versatility comes in. If I was using old style foam wagglers, I wouldn't be able to swap it now. But what I can do is really quickly chuck that down, pick me 5 grammer up, now that the wind's popped up. It's a lovely little thing that we weren't expecting to happen. And you'll see now I'll be able to cast it far better and keep it far tighter all of a sudden. See how that float didn't even dive? As long as I put it in, I'm clipped up because I don't want to go on the island. My float's landing flat on the water when it goes in and it just stops it from diving altogether. Same again, I'm not getting much of a cast because it's pulling through so much. I'm going to straighten that line up, drop rod on rod rest, feed some bait. And it is such a busy way of fishing, but it's necessary just as it would be if I was slapping a pole rig over here. I've got to be really, really, really busy. So I'm looking now to swap back to my other float as quickly as I can because it just goes in so much nicer. See how tight that's gone in? That's absolutely perfect how that's gone in. Give it a bit of line. Is one going to have it? One going to have it? Not yet, not yet, not yet. No, straighten him up. It's pulling a little bit too quick for me to be able to keep a tight line today. But it is now, it wasn't 30 seconds ago. Feed me bait. Nope. And just keep repeating it. Say we definitely should be mugging now. There's loads of fish swimming about. That's what we need to be targeting. But that's no good for you lot that want to learn a little bit. Again, in, lovely. That's the tightest line I've kept, that one. That was so much better. So if I get a bite, I should be able to respond to that nice and quick. It shouldn't pull as fast. No, straighten that line up a bit. You can see when I'm feeding, like my feed lands over my bait when it goes in. Yeah, over my float when I've twitched it, sorry, so it's short of the island. So when it first goes in, I'm at the back of my bait, which is where the fish are more likely to be, whether I'm on an island or not. It could be that I'm fishing an island. Nobody likes that. He's fell off. But yeah, it could be that I'm fishing an island or open water. I always want my waggler to go in at the back of my bait because that's where the happiest, it's where the big daft ones live, that they think they're getting away with it, just picking that odd bit of bait up. I'm just going to feed again on that because we've just lost one in peg. Get a quick feed before I go in. You see, when it lands, it'll land right on the back edge of that bait. Yep. Lovely, give it a sec. So not long, I'm getting a right little window here before my line's pulling all over the place. See how quick that one was, straight on your bait, and you get the best of both. So I'll get 80% of my bites on that when it first goes in, tight to the island where they're most confident, but then I'll also catch 20% of my fish on my feed, on that little twitch when I'm bringing it back into the bait, into the area that they're likely to be feeding. And it just means I'm being as efficient as I possibly can be. I'm proper working the peg. I'd say paying attention, not picking a catapult up. That is probably the biggest error I see with waggler fishing, is that people cast in and they immediately reach for the waggler. Yeah, and the amount of times that there's catapults flying all over. What is going on today? There's catapults flying all over the place because you miss your bite, because you're all erratic. Have your first cast, watch it, pay attention to it, see if you get a bite, then pick your catty up and see what's going on. So I don't know what's going on with that. I actually had that last time I was here, in the little like £5 ones that live on the island, and they pull that flipping hard that you lose quite a few of them. I did exactly the same last time I was on this peg. Get some bait out there quick. So the bait's not landing anywhere near the island, but my waggler lands beautifully just short of it. What I do want as well is to make sure my clutch is nice. So I'm always playing with my clutch, because I almost want to strike and it to tick off a couple of times. huge with waggler fishing, because if you have it locked up immediately, quite often or not, you're going to break your hook length on the strike, because it's also aggressive instantly. So I want to have my clutch just set so as a strike it ticks off that 3 or 4 times. So it just adds a little bit more cushion, especially when I'm fishing fairly close like I am today, and prevents it snapping my hook length, which can be a bit of a problem when doing this. So I'm proper like working my peg to begin with. I'm concentrating everything to the right hand side of my peg to begin with, and then I can go to the point, and then I can go to the left hand side of my peg if I need to. But you'll find that most of your fish are going to be right in the centre over that bait where they want to be. So my little twitch. I've actually had a bite on both now. I've had a bite as it went in. So you can see fish there. I don't think they're feeding, I think they're just swimming through. Oh, that one fed. Yeah, that one had a little feed. Should drop it on these and catch one of these, really, but we won't. So I'm going to keep on chucking it. Hopefully don't catch a duck. Let's try that side of the peg, see if there's one sitting there in the weeds. Please don't go under now. It's out the way. They're like teenage ducks. They're the ones that are proper pain in the bum. Not going to feed while these are there because I don't want them diving in my peg. It's weird that if I'm on fishing on a pole for F1s and that, I love a duck in my peg. I think it gives the fish confidence. But when I'm chucking a waggler, because my bait sinks so slow, the last thing you want is daffy duck sat in your peg, because you are going to catch him if you're chucking a slow sinking pellet on a big long hook length. The pellet's all right. Right hand side again. Gone in lovely. So there's very few fish coming to the splash today. Last time I was on here, everything was coming to the splash. There doesn't seem to be much excitement going on today. I think they're right ready to spawn nearly, I'm feeling. There's still fish mooching out there. You see them swimming past all the time. Bait. No. What's not happening as well, because it's pulling through to the left quite fast, I know that I'm not on the bottom. It's a little bit deeper than what I'm fishing, so otherwise my waggler would be dragging a little bit and there'd just be a little bit of resistance on the float as it was touching the bottom. That's definitely not happening. So I'm happy I'm off deck there. Obviously you'd have the options of chucking whatever you want over this as well, a method or a bomb or whatever. But for now we want to catch on the wag. This is what I'm on about just working and working. Those last 2 bites that I had were within, a little dip then, don't know about that. We're within like 5 minutes of each other, and it's so often the case in that you get those little spells of 2 or 3 bites really quick, and then you might go 15 minutes, just check that look, 15 minutes without catching one. But if I'm catching flipping 2 every 15 minutes, then I'm more than happy. I mean, it's 10, 20 pound a go. Come on. So one just swirled at the back of that then, and I'd not seen it swimming through, so that's often the feeding ones. I'm not going to feed this time because it's right on my peg. Big shoals all swimming past me all the time. Catch a right weight mugging on a pole today. So what I'm going to do, see that wind's dying down now? So it literally can be incredible the difference it makes. Swap into a lighter float, that's what it could be, that there's just too much of a splash with that float. And I think now, I reckon I can get away with a lighter one. Just that wind's just dropped enough that I should get me lighter float in. Big ghosty just swam around the back of it now. So I'm going to whiz in, swap my float back. See that clutch just ticking then, even when I didn't strike at a fish, just that little bit of resistance on the float, it's enough just to tick your clutch a couple of times and prevent a snappage when you actually have a fish on the end of it. Just get rid of him, back on that. Check everything's right. I'm going to swap that pellet. And with my pasty ones, I normally get about 10 casts, and then they seem to take on a little bit of water. So a fresh pellet can be huge. Now this proper wouldn't surprise me now to go in and get a bite first chuck on a lighter waggler. Because fish are horrible and clever. It just goes in different. I don't even think the top of that float got wet then when it went in. Nothing there, no. I fancied that as well, and that just went in nice, that one. No, straight back in. We should be mugging these, but I'm determined to catch one. If we nail one, stand literally under me rod tip here. See the wagglers being weighted the way they are. I mean, they cast exactly. Ooh, go on. Hey! That one had literally heard it land, like flipped up for it and was looking for it and went down and nailed it. That'd be me if I were a fish. I'd be stupid and come to every splash in the lake. He's nodding as well, so he's in the mouth. Oh, good. But I'd say it's busy, busy, busy in it. That's, if on a pole, that's 5 minutes worth of slapping. But unfortunately on a waggler, it takes 15 minutes to keep on chucking and chucking and chucking. And say on days when it's the only option, you're not seeing all these fish that we're seeing today, it's still plenty. And you've just got to look out for those little spells where you might get 4 bites in 15 minutes. I mean, for 20, 30 pound easy, it's just working really hard. And the longer you do it, just because it's carp fishing in general as well, the longer you're doing it, the better it will get throughout the day. If you keep reining them pellets in, keep ringing the dinner bell, keep casting nice and accurately without being too erratic, it is without doubt probably the most rewarding and exciting method during the summer months for catching. Oh, please chill out a little bit, Winston. For catching big wobbly ones, isn't it? So he's a little bit smaller, but that's what I expect. The mugging fish are definitely the bigger fish that are swimming about. These lovely little, what's he gonna be? These little 5-pounders, they're the ones that are against that island, still not in the mood for nookie. They want to have a little feed, and the pellet waggler is without doubt, or the foam pellet waggler, more to the point, is without doubt the best way of catching them carp. So get out there, give it a go. The new wagglers we've got are quite simply stunning and well worth a chance on the bank to catch some big wobbly carp.